Welcome to an incomplete guide to personal growth. We invite you to take a breath and take a listen to our podcast that explores the wonder, humor, challenges, and sometimes those self-inflicted wounds on the journey of personal growth.
Our weekly podcast conversations include stories, resources, and tools that you can incorporate into your daily life. We're the mother-daughter duo of Sydney West
and Kelly Arundel.
Hi, Mom.
Hey, Sydney.
How are you?
I am all right.
So we are starting like our month of August now, which I like. Well, it's kind of a big month for our family because we have all the birthdays.
We have
my
all the
birthday
birthdays.
and your and Dad's.
Yeah. And my brothers and his brothers. And
God.
Yeah,
that's a lot. So I wanted to banter opening or whatever.
Okay.
So I was thinking of just letting our listeners into our lives a little bit. So, we talk about personal growth and we're talking about change. We're talking about things like, this month we're going to be talking a lot about things you don't plan, things you can control, life changes. So I've started classes for occupational therapy school. Well, really prerequisites to then get into occupational therapy school. Right. And so spent June very intensely, had 4 classes, which was really dumb, but I did it.
You did it.
Made it through, and then I've got to do all these science and psychology classes and stuff in the fall, and then eventually human anatomy and physiology. It's intense. And that's just to get in. So, But yes, I've decided to kind of switch up my career. I know, because whenever we started this, that was my whole intro. I'm a musician.
Talk about this wasn't what I planned.
I know, right? But yeah, it's something that I wanted to change. I wanted a career that was flexible but paid a little more than music at the moment. Right. And I feel like it's a good fit when it comes to kind of having to be creative but technical at the same time. So, yes.
I know. I think that's exciting. I think also it'll be interesting to see, because your love of music will never go away.
No, yeah.
So to see how that re-enters at different points.
Yes.
And what you do with that. That'll be exciting. Who knows? You can't even predict.
Yes. So I say never too late. I'm in my late 20s.
Well, but you think you have your plan. Yeah. And then you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And you think, this is what I'm going to do. So. Right. Yes. So that's kind of my current,
good.
A little bit of life update. So there we go.
That's exciting.
Okay. So with this topic today, this is not what I had planned. So we're trying to kind of get back into, a little more serious talk from summer. And then also kind of this month's theme has to do with you don't have control.
You don't have control. Things that you didn't plan. Why is it so hard, this personal growth thing? And letting go of control, like we had any. And then some spiritual
tie-ins for all that. So
trying
to kind of give, months a little bit of a theme.
Right.
But yeah, so this topic is kind of the first of a little bit of a series for us. Right. And so, man, whenever I think of things not going as planned, I think, okay, well, you got to be flexible a bit. So my very limited experience. And then we can go into, obviously, you've got a lot of really good examples. But really my example is I just remember I was so bad with change growing up. Awful. Very structured. And before going to college, the summer before college, you guys would purposefully give me these plans, spontaneously. I'd have nothing planned for the day or whatever. And he'd be like, no, we're going to the movies in 10 minutes. I'm like, what? I'm like, but you didn't tell me. It was a big deal to me at the time.
I realized one day Lauren said, Sydney, why don't we go to the movie today? And you're like, well, we didn't talk about that yesterday. And I thought,
yeah, it was weird.
Wow. People go and do stuff spontaneously at college. Are you going to go, well, I didn't know about that yesterday?
Yeah.
So we were just trying to introduce you.
Which was good. I needed it. And then college was great. And I was flexible. I could go with, whatever
Yeah.
plans happen. But that's like what I very vividly
That's
remember
what she doesn't plan.
about things.
But
not
look at you now.
And then for that, it's like things weren't planned in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think we all have struggles. Mm-hmm. Some are small, some are leave us in a heap,
Yeah.
right? And we have these plans, we have these hopes. I have visions for my future. I have this going on. I thought this would be this relationship. I thought this would be like this, and then it doesn't.
Yeah.
And one of I want to read one quote real quick. Joan Chittister, and I'm going to put this book out there. It's called "Scarred by the Struggle, Transformed by Hope." And she writes, "Everybody sometimes in life is changed by something they did not want to have change. Mm-hmm. It is real change, the change that comes upon us unbidden and unwanted, change that breaks our hearts and smothers our soul and haunts us."
Man,
we all have that.
That's good.
And one of the things, when Paul and I got married, he had gone to a Baptist church down the street, and I was at the Methodist church working, and he was also working there. Anyway, the Baptist minister, so we had to do double counseling. but Dr. Wade was is a fantastic guy, and he was talking to us, and he talked about when things change. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, this wasn't what I expected. This wasn't what... He said, we all have pictures and images in our head, basically, of what we see our future to be. And he said, this is the back day of the Polaroids. He said, you have to scrap that picture and just get out the Polaroid camera and take another one. Mm-hmm. And I love the idea of a Polaroid because if you know Polaroid cameras, it takes time for that image to develop. Yeah. So you begin to take the picture and it develops.
Oh, that's good.
And then it's just a Polaroid. So when something else comes along, guess what? Pull out the camera again.
Yeah.
And I have used that. I think one piece of advice that he has given.
Yeah.
And Paul was like, he said that? The other day I was telling him, I was like, you don't remember? That has just helped me over and over again. I didn't think I'd see myself here. Okay, this is going to change everything.
Yeah.
Guess what? I've got to refocus. I've got to and I thought that was one of the most fantastic things when Paul and I first got married. Matter of fact, it helped because he was out in Amarillo, and I had started my master's in religion, but then I went out and started working and in Amarillo with him and was miserable and knew that if we had children, I'd wanted my master's first and I'd be resentful if I didn't get it. And so I had a professor friend at Oklahoma City University, and he said, I bet we could get some scholarships for you, see what you can do. Yeah. And so I went and I started going to school there, and Paul's idea was to move out there with me.
And he couldn't find a job,
He couldn't find a job in what is his engineering. And so I called him one day crying. And I said, this is not what I thought marriage was, and bawling. He said, seriously, he said, well, I'd rather have you crying there than here. So
I love that.
Okay. And but he came in every weekend.
Oh,
we made it work. We met back up in Dallas.
It's insane with how often he drove back and forth that he never got caught in a snowstorm and a tornado.
Isn't that crazy?
Nothing.
Crazy. It really was. But we made it.
Yeah.
And what it did for me then, for my idea from that, I thought, you know what? That's what marriage is. It is this is your dream. I'm going to watch you chase it.
Yeah.
It's your turn.
Yeah.
And then it's turns. And so out of that change that was not wanted, really, and the image that I didn't have, this new idea of, wow, this really is what it's about.
Yeah. That's
came
cool.
to me. So that was kind of cool. Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing, example I was going to give is these are small changes, kind of, but they're big, right? Yeah. Lauren had her internship lined up for the summer, and it's really hard to find in her field summer internships, and it even paid, which was better. Midway through, they said, we're shutting down this program of our office, so you're out of an internship.
Oh.
And she came home, And she said, man, I really wanted to leave right at that moment, but I stayed. So that's good. And she said, I'm going to give myself a day, maybe a day and a half, to be upset, to wrap my head around it, and then I'll start looking for another internship. And I think that was a wonderful thing to talk about when we get slammed.
Yeah.
It's okay to stop and sit in the
Take
emotions
time.
of,
Yes.
man, I'm disappointed. Now what am I going to, whatever that is. And give ourselves that time.
Yes.
And then go, okay, by this time I'm going to get back into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
That's
know?
so good. Okay. Are you ready for my first question?
Yes.
Okay. So many things, like big things, small things. So we just talk about small things too, but big things, can go, I think, wrong in life. So how do you learn to deal with that?
It's not,
And
it's
I already know
almost
you don't like my
you
wording.
don't deal with, because so when I think of, there's two words. Dealing means you're done. I like coping.
Oh, okay.
And moving forward in a different way.
Okay.
But, those two things. And then, wait, what else?
Wrong.
Wrong.
Right? Yeah, I knew you wouldn't like that word.
They might not be wrong. They're not what I like. And some of them are just disastrous and they're tragic.
Yes.
And that, I'm not saying those aren't wrong, but they are
yeah.
life and it stinks
Yeah.
sometimes to the max. And, so what it was those
So
were-
okay, yes, I know
what
you
do
didn't like those. So how, like, okay, so
Oh, how
when
do you
those
cope
things,
with those?
okay,
When
fine,
you
instead
get
of-
slammed.
Here, let me use it with my
got
new
it.
wording. So there are many things, big and small, that don't go as you planned
right.
in life. How do you learn to cope?
How do you learn to cope with that? Because first is sitting in the emotions, and that is difficult.
Yeah.
To sit and feel the anger, the hurt, the devastation, the pain, the loss, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And even the small ones, we still grieve.
Yeah.
Even the small one, there's things going on with that. So one of the things is simply not running from it
Yeah.
and going, this hurts.
And
What
being
am I
in
going
it.
to do? How am I going to recenter myself? I don't know at this moment. So I'm going to sit and I'm going to cry. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to, whatever it is, all the emotions probably at one point or another. I'm not going to run. I'm going to allow myself to feel it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard because, maybe we want to hide it in a drink or whatever else we may be is our hiding place.
So, it could be work.
To sit with that. Yeah, it could be work.
Binging
I'm just
Netflix.
going to keep working. I'm just going to binge Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, whatever that is, right? But, and then once I can do a little bit of that, I can look around at my support system.
Yeah.
It may be built in really close to me where I can have that person to call and who will just be there, listen and hold it, not fix it. That I think that comes later.
Yeah.
And it's not even fixing, it's moving forward differently.
And I think with support system, because this is something I've been thinking a lot about, it's like, I think it'd surprise you who you could reach out to, like people that you think you aren't like super close with. I mean, I think it's always helpful to think about the opposite way. If the person that you'd like to talk to or call, you think you aren't that close, if they were to call you with something, wouldn't you be there to listen, answer the phone, go to lunch, whatever? If they're the person you want to reach out to and you think they're nice enough and all that, like they will probably do the same for you. I think we get in our own way in reaching out for help and reaching to the support system and helping make one. I think more people would be willing than we initially think.
And it's people that aren't going through this, haven't gone through the same thing we have. They're just people that are there that listen. And to get our pride out of the way sometimes to go, I failed at this.
Yeah.
I lost my job or whatever it is it may be. And I'm losing something in your job that I didn't tie those together. I'm saying I failed at something. And over here I did that. But, and just, it's hard to say that. But once you do, that you'd be surprised how many people go, oh, that hurts. I get that. And just can be with you.
Yes.
Right? Or maybe they have gone through it.
Definitely.
The other thing to look at is the community, the little broader support that is there.
Yeah.
if you have a faith place, there may be that, but there's a lot of community support systems built in.
Yeah.
If you look for them.
Definitely.
Everything from one-on-one counselor to groups to nonprofit organizations that deal with what you're looking. There's a lot of support when we look. And then the other thing eventually is how we talk about it. Mm-hmm. How we label things.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm telling somebody, they go, "Oh, that is just the worst," then you're going, "Oh,
no.
Oh my gosh.
How bad should I be feeling about
Right.
this?
And how we talk about it. Mm-hmm. This is worse. Life is just awful. Well, this part of it is, but you know what? I've got this person over here that's going, I love you still.
Yeah.
I'm hurting with you.
Yes.
Oh, well, it's not all bad.
Yeah.
This is painful and gut-wrenching and whatever it may be. Or it may just be, I'm really teed off. I got a flat tire and it made me late for an interview, or it just made me mad.
Yeah.
This wasn't what I planned either. I didn't plan a flat tire in the middle of it. So, it can be the small things too, because I can get a flat tire and lose it and ruin my day, or I can get a flat tire and go, okay,
life happens.
I'm learning how to deal with this, or if I haven't had to before, or I've got resources. How about that? I didn't realize that. Anyway, it's how we look at it and label it, I think. Because I can blow things up, and it's powerful because we're also sending that message to our head and to our heart.
Yes.
And then we're going to believe it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man. Oh, that's so good. I love that. So this kind of ties in well. So you're talking about just then labeling, changing mindsets, like all that stuff. So I think that has to do with knowing things will work out. So how do you find that reassurance that it'll work out? That life keeps going.
Life keeps going.
And
again, the terminology work out. I don't know that it'll work out. I know that it may not even ever be as I planned. But if I look, I will find something positive. And I think of family members who I know who have lost people dear.
Yeah.
Right? In tragedy.
Yeah.
It's not going to work out.
Yeah.
They're going to get slammed and they're going to grieve and they're going to cope and move forward differently the rest of their lives. But how are they going to do that? With grace, giving to others, and being compassionate toward others because they get things differently. And those are the big things. The small things are like, so I didn't get a job I wanted. Mm-hmm. Okay. And let me use Lauren's example.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go back to that. About her, this is the worst ever.
her internship. Yeah.
My internship. I'm really counting on graduating in August. How am I going to find this? There's not a lot of availability. Oh, there's one an hour away.
Well,
I'm going to go for it. And she has ended up getting a supervisor that's a great mentor. She also is getting a variety of clients.
Way more clients.
Much more experience and broader, and she can't beat it.
No, it was good.
Nobody could predict that.
Yeah.
You don't, life unfolds, you can't see it.
Man.
But
so that's another,
that's when it just happened to come out. Sometimes it takes a long time for stuff to come out.
Well, so that's
right?
The
to
phrase,
work out.
Yes, the phrase work out, I guess, is the assumption that it works in your favor and in the way that you have planned for it to fix itself. And
well, I can go about fixing myself. I'm going to get this,
but
I think couldn't have imagined it would be this way.
Yeah, and the connotation, I think, we need to find another phrase instead of work out, because I think the connotation with that too, it worked out
in my favor.
And it was how you wanted. It was it was how you liked it to work out, Yeah. And so I guess what would be another phrase?
How it unfolds. The assurance that
that you will be okay.
That you'll be okay. And part of that is your attitude into it. Mm-hmm. Part of that is, okay may not look like what I think it looks like. Mm. Oh, I thought I'd have a PhD personally, folks. But
you did not.
But I had kids instead. No. I can't.
That's a whole other PhD. Okay.
But I really, that was one of my dreams was to do that and teach, right?
Oh.
And But I also knew that I don't have the personality to do those two intense things of babies and
teaching.
And by the time I thought, could go back to it, I thought, I don't really want to work in the ivory tower place.
But you still
I want to be with the people.
You still taught.
Yes, I want to be able to do it at a different
level.
Where it's really practical.
Yeah.
Versus, and not that you learn stuff.
No, I get what you mean.
Anyway, it was just different. And I couldn't have planned that. I couldn't have thought that because I really had my thoughts and my dreams and my hopes on something else.
Interesting.
That
yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. And so you just have to
good.
have...
I would love to have that label, but then I did this phase where I don't like labels, so I wouldn't have liked being one.
Oh my God. Too much.
Right.
It's too bad.
Right.
Okay, so I guess you can kind of get, as you cope with the change, you can kind of find your reassurance through your, good coping mechanism, good labeling, that you're going to be okay.
Yeah, and there's certain things, some people, their faith is going to help them rely on that. Yeah. It may be your circle of friends, your family, somebody else, something else.
Yeah.
But to know that there's something greater, and I'm not saying there's an ABC plan that you're a puppet. I'm just saying that, okay, so that didn't. I'm taking a new Polaroid. I'm not going to be a professor. What are you going to?
Yeah, what are you going to do?
How are you going to unfold? I would have never imagined this sitting here right now either.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't really have everything planned like I think I do.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the beauty of it. I love the term, a lot of people have used it, life unfolding. Because if something's folded, you really don't know what is under it.
Yeah.
And it unfolds in such beautiful manners. Plants, flowers, they unfold, they bloom, they go, and then they close up and that one falls off and you try another,
That's good.
But yeah.
And so we kind of mentioned one way, how to practice changing our mindset.
Right.
And we kind of mentioned changing the labels.
I think that's one of the biggest things for me is how I talk about a situation.
Yeah.
Because when something hits us hard and it's okay, I don't want to say label, but this is hard.
Yeah.
This is so painful. This is gut wrenching. I'm crumbled. I can't move off the floor. Okay, then don't right now.
Yeah.
And then you look, I think gratitude is a thing, then you look for the gracefulness and the graces in your life, Yeah. Oh, but I do have somebody to call.
Yeah.
Or I do have a resource that I can look to. I can. And sunflowers, we're talking about tattoos.
Oh, yeah.
Sunflowers, whenever the shadows come, they turn toward whatever sun there is.
Yeah.
They're looking for it. And so am I looking for it? Do I talk about it as if life, this will never happen, this is it? Or do I talk about, do I find something, some grain?
Yeah.
And
I think that's something that people should practice with the smaller, like we talked about smaller.
Yeah, I think you
have to start, don't think, that if something big hits you and you haven't practiced that you're going to be any good at it, because you're not.
Yeah.
I think it's something, like you mentioned the tire. That's one. It's like, oh my gosh, my tire went out today. This is really frustrating. Yeah. And then that's a time you can be like, okay, but what do I have? I have somebody I can call. I have the money to deal with this. I have, it's like you have your things. And then when something just totally hits you, wallops you, you can take that time to deal and then still be able to have that practice of changing your,
And
labels.
if you haven't practiced and you get walloped, these are tools.
Yeah,
right?
tools.
There are tools.
Yeah.
There are the wonderful therapists. There are crisis centers.
Yeah.
There are a grieving center. I mean, there's all kinds of places to reach out.
Yeah.
And to not feel alone.
Yeah, because I think whenever things don't go as planned, you feel... I think you can feel really lonely because you're like, I'm the only, because it feels like you're the only one it's happening to, or you're the only one whose life is just totally getting into shambles or whatever. I think it's really easy to feel lonely when it's not going as planned.
Oh, it is. Yeah. And there's an awful feeling to feel like you're all alone in something and by yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things. I'm going to read this. Yeah. This is, again, by Scarred by the Struggle, Transformed by Hope. The important things in life, one way or another, all leave us marked and scarred. We call it memory. We never stop remembering our triumphs. We never stop regretting our losses. Some of them mark us with bitterness, but all of them can, if we allow them, mark us with wisdom. Oh. I love that. And then she goes on to say, they transform us from our small, puny, self-centered selves into people of compassion. For the first time, we understand the fearful and the sinful and the exhausted. They have become us, and we have become them as well. Oh, and I love that because good. There is, if we seek, we find wisdom.
Yeah.
And in all situations. And then the distance between that person over there and us
gets smaller.
The person on the street that's homeless.
Yeah.
1 inch away from us.
Yeah, yeah.
Stories that we could probably listen to and go, yeah.
And get it. Mm-hmm.
I get that now. We are each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's something to remember when we're feeling alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
People hurt. It's like sitting in the church pew.
Yeah.
Everybody looks like they're happy and everything together, but you can look around and go, no. There's pain. Mm-hmm. There's pain in the seats.
Yes.
But there's joy.
And
there's grace in the seats, you know, definitely. In the people.
So good.
Yeah, it's a both and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have any last positive thoughts or quotes or whatever for when things don't go as planned?
You know, I do. It's my positive thought is that an attitude makes a difference.
Yeah.
We all hurt. And I don't want to diminish
and it's not like you don't
any of
feel
that.
it.
And
yeah,
you
absolutely.
feel it. And I want you to be able to say we sit in these feelings. But if we pull back the picture, it's a moment in time. And we can find beauty all around us if we look.
Yeah.
In the people and outdoors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think beauty exists.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And wisdom. I love that. Not in the middle of a crisis, I'm going to find wisdom. No, that's not it. It's, but I will. I will, and I'm going to be a different person.
Yeah.
I will be a different person. And usually that's how we become different, is by those challenges.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, we hope that we gave you some tools, some ways to help when life does not go as planned in big or small ways. Either way, it's and so make sure you can, again, follow us on Instagram, go to our Patreon. We have meditations that come out twice a month to help you. And they oftentimes will tie into what we're doing in the podcast. And then email us if you have any questions, have any life stories you'd like to share. We'd love to hear from you. And incompleteguide@gmail.com. And then next week, we are continuing on with our kind of theme. We're going to talk about when personal growth is hard. What do you do?
Yeah. And why is it hard?
Why is it hard? Love it. Yep.
All right. So we'll see you next Tuesday when we take a breath and take a listen.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of An Incomplete Guide to Personal Growth. There are many ways you can stay connected. Follow us on Instagram @An Incomplete Guide Podcast, where you can sign up for our email list and get posts that delve deeper into our weekly topics. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast page wherever you listen to your podcasts. We would really appreciate a rating and sharing us with your family and friends.
We're so glad you chose to spend your time with us and hope there was a thought, a resource, or a laugh that you can take on your journey. We'll be here every Tuesday for you to take a breath and take a listen.